Welcome back. Welcome in. This is Country Roads Confidential at earsports.com. It is a Paramount podcast. I am Mike Casazza here on a Monday morning of a game week in Morgantown. Mountaineers back on the field Saturday against Cincinnati in Big 12 play. Joining me to discuss something completely different at the top today is a horse, Chris Anderson. Chris, you got so excited about the start of basketball season. You would not stop talking about how much fun this is going to be. And now you have no voice. Well done.
I just had to tell everybody that would listen about Darren DeVries and this new men's basketball team. So I pardon my voice for this podcast today. Hopefully it'll be better by the preview pod later in the week.
So you've literally caught the bug. You have the fever. Anything else? Or are you out of this? I'm not going to make you mad eventually here if I keep this going. I understand
No,
ability.
no, no. That's good.
Okay. Let's start there. We're going to get to basketball and what we're going to try to learn, to football and what we're going to try to learn and ultimately will not learn today about something pretty important. I think we're going to learn a lot about basketball and probably sooner than later just because they're going to play, kind of a bunch of games in a quick succession here when you look at how they're clustered. And then I think they're going to try to get as much done as they can before they go into that tournament in the Bahamas. So maybe there's some experimentation. Maybe they just focus in on, their core, maybe like 8 people, perhaps 9. I don't really know, which is kind of like what I'm interested in because DeVries is really interesting Friday saying they're going to treat every game like the national championship and they're trying to win the 40 minutes. And it's not about playing 2 or 3 games to get better and to get like more ideas and experimentation. It sounds like all the lab hours are pretty much done, Chris, and they're just going to go out and do what they do best and use who they like the most and try to get wins and wins and wins. I don't know, just in the tiers of a schedule here, I don't know if you really build up toward Big 12 play. Probably should be built up right now because they have to bank wins before they get to Big 12. But they've also been practicing for a long, long time, too. When you think about how long the offseason is now and how long the preseason is, too. How much of a finished product or do you expect? And maybe that's not even the right word, but how many blanks do you think are left unfilled before they tip off tonight?
Not many. You mentioned the rotation, and that was something I took from DeVries's press conference on Friday too. He was asked, "What's your rotation?" 8, 9, 10. He's like, "Oh, it's 8." I'm like, it's 8. Maybe a ninth or 10th guy gets a few minutes here or there. So it sounds like, based off of that answer, yeah, maybe that's just his philosophy. But I also get the impression that might be where he already is with this team, that he already has 8 in mind. So I'm curious. I think we have an idea of what those 8 are, but I'm curious if he's going to come out with like, "Hey, these are the 8 tonight in this game against Robert Morris."
Yeah, when does he get to 8? That'd be an interesting one. I'm not sure the identity of the 6 is that important, but let's just do this real quick, Chris. Starting 5 seems like no question. Javon Small, Sincere Harris, Toby O'Connie, Tucker DeVries, and Amani Hansberry. Your bench was Jaden Stone, Joseph Yasufu, and Eduardo Andre. That's 8. We're not going to see Jaden Stone tonight, and it sure sounds like for a while. Just scary fall in practice, banged his head. He'll be out for quite some time, maybe one game. Who knows? One of those things here. And DeVries said he'll be out for a while. We'll see how long it is. He's day to day. That was all in one quote. So I'm not even sure that they know right now. And listen, those things are going to be extremely process restricted. Like you can't. It's not like an ankle you can play on it. You have to make sure that you're allowed back on the court for things like that. But he's there. He's in that top 8 for sure. That top 8 isn't there now. So like you have your clear 7, and then that 8. It almost feels like it's gonna be blurry, Chris. It could be a combination of 3 people. It may be Jonathan Tenner. It may be KJ Powell. It may be like a combination of people that it could be a different guy on a different night. It could be 2 people trying to play one. So now you go from 8 to 7, but like your 8, if you do that, is going to be a combination of like guys 9, 10, and 11, if that makes sense. It's an opportunity for a guy like Powell, especially who was probably knocking on the door. I don't know what it does for the rest of the bench here, but it does shorten things up because there isn't really a true backup to the backup. There is no Jaden Stone backup out there right now.
My flu fog there had me thinking you really truly did
That's
not
good.
know Jonathan Powell's name or KJ Tenner's name. Good,
Mhm.
good stuff there. Um, yeah, that's a good point. I didn't forget about Jaden Stone, but you're right. There isn't going to be an 8-man rotation tonight. They're probably, well, if things go according to plan, there probably wasn't going to be an 8-man rotation either anyway, because it should be, or they hope so, that it's going to be a game that they win comfortably and they get guys more minutes. So yeah, and yeah. Look at the names like Howell, Tenor, like those guys are not traditional shooting guards like Stone. Just to your point there, that it's going to be a different kind of rotation, different kind of combination for whoever replaces him.
Mm. What are you looking forward to? We've seen hints, we've read box scores and from Italy, secret scrimmage, some truth in there, it seems like, some exaggeration, elaboration in there as well. We saw an exhibition game against a decent Division II team that may actually be better than some of the teams they play in their regular season schedule early on. But I don't know. I mean, they probably have a lot of the jitters and the kinks worked out. And I guess the one thing that I take like most impressive in the scrimmage is how good they were the first 6 or 8 minutes. But evidently that wasn't the case in the exhibition game. Excuse me, other way around. Wasn't the case in the scrimmage, was the case in the exhibition. So I don't know. They're probably pretty normal and have a lot of stuff they get worked out in the court and in practice. But we talked about things that give us hope. It could be space, it could be offense, it could be coaching, it could be, I don't know, whatever. We had different ideas there. But as we've answered that question, you've seen different responses, or as you thought about this, anything that you're gonna have your eye on tonight?
Sincere Harris and Amani Hansberry. You know, you look at the starting five or even this top eight that you mentioned before, everyone else is kind of a known-ish quantity. Like we know Tucker DeVries. We know what he is. We know what he can do. Same with Javon Small, same with Toby Okani. These guys have a resume that they've put together and put out there for people to see in college. Hansberry and Harris haven't. Like they barely played at Illinois. Both of them were highly regarded recruits, though. They were guys that had very high potential and could be big time players. So I'm curious to see what they actually do once they're given or they've earned, you know, a large amount of playing time and get out there. And it's probably not something we're going to find out in one night, but over the course of the first few games of the year, those are the two guys I'm probably watching the closest.
I really want to keep an eye on their bench because the starting five is no, again, no questions on that. And we just kind of talked about their deliberations about how they're going to get to the bench and who they use in what order. There are guys who can play though, I think. We'll see. Like Powell again has a chance, and he's probably the closest they have to Stone for however long Stone is out, but it's not the same. I get that. He has a chance. Tenor, I don't know, man. If he can play, they can be creative in the backcourt, but his size right now, as just not against his fault, but like that's going to be a difficult thing for him. Like Ofri Nave, is he just not? Is he on the outside? Like he's got some skill. We saw flashes last year. He's been here for a while. Maybe he's more comfortable. But everything you hear and you've seen so far, he's just not in the mix. And I wonder about like a Harris Elizovic. Can he come in and just kind of be a really physical guy and just say hello with some elbows and some box outs and things like that every couple of minutes and a half, just maybe once or twice a half, 2, 3 times a game. Just when DeVries was saying, like, don't be satisfied with your role. Like you can create a difference by how you practice, how you prepare, what you do when you get chances. There's going to be a few chances early on where you're going to get put in because maybe the score has gotten away. And like that's one reason I have my eye on Elizovic. Like he just kind of did some stuff at the end of that Division II opponent game. Not impressive. I mean, he didn't like it wasn't like a double double, but he was in there for a couple of minutes. Box guy out, drew a foul, made 2 free throws, kind of like moved some people around and just things like that. Flashes for guys who are on the outside looking in. How do they get themselves in? Like if they're getting that message from the head coach, but hey, just your role is temporary for as long as you want it to be. You want more, you earn more. You play harder, you listen, you just do what you're told in practice on the floor. There's a chance for some guys right there. And all of a sudden, that 7/8, that can become 8/9, maybe non-solid people. Then you have backup situations where they don't feel bad about, I don't know, let's say Eduardo Andres in foul trouble and they got to get some minutes out of the bench where they can throw Elizovic in. I'm not sure how much you think about Abraham Oyadir this year. He might be a redshirt candidate, but they're going to need a guy like Elizovic. You can't come back next year, right? He's played some college basketball. He's played Power Five opponents before. It'd be interesting to see what a guy like that can do. And then just what did they get as far as bridging? Like, how do they bridge? Their starting five is pretty good. There's no doubt about that. And they're going to try to keep some combination of them on the floor as often as possible. Everybody does. But, like, who are the players that do that? I'm curious because I wonder if they know because they haven't had, like, a whole bunch of heat against them yet. And they're going to start getting that soon. And all the good news, all the good vibes, that'll be negated quite a bit. How do they respond? And, a good assistant coach that we talked to on Friday was Corey Barnett. And he was just like effusive in what he said about DeVries and how good he is at getting his guys to prepare for like the fire. All of a sudden things are turned up and it's not comfortable anymore, and you're going to have adverse moments. And just that he had guys talked into that already, and they haven't had any adversity yet when you think about it on the court. Like, they blew 3 teams out. In Italy, they had a pretty good exhibition game, and then the scrimmage by all accounts went their way, but they didn't start great, and they came back and did okay after that. That's a good thing. But had they had, what happens when they're down 10? What happens when they miss 9 straight shots? Something like that. That'll be interesting to me to see how it goes. Just getting out of the first couple of games, like they very quickly go to Pitt. Like, that's right around the corner, and that's a big time uh barometer, I guess. But where do they have to be, you think, by the time they go to the Atlantis tournament?
Yeah, I mean, I think they need to be comfortable with the rotation, comfortable with playing with each other, but and I don't want to see them stumble um, with these first few games. And, look at this: the Robert Morris, the UMass, the Iona. Not taking anything away from those teams, but you look at West Virginia in past years. Whenever they're a decent team to an NCAA tournament team, they don't lose these games. These are the games they don't lose. But when they're bad, like last year, they lose to Monmouth.
Mhm.
A few years ago, they lose to Western Kentucky. A few years before that was Davidson, and not the Steph Curry Davidson, just Davidson. Um, so I think it's going to be about taking care of business these first few games and showing that they can work together. And it's going to build up. That pick, I'm with you. I think that's more of a, hey, let's see what this team really is with Pitt. But those other 3 games, Robert Morris, UMass, and Iona, that's, hey, take care of business. Don't let this screw up the season kind of games.
Does UMass stink? Did I miss something here?
Um, are they that bad?
I think that's just a losable game based on the coach, and I have not dug in on that. Like, I looked at Robert Morris and I was like, wow, I don't really recognize but a couple of people on that team that have one of their top scorers back. I know their coach is generally pretty good. I would have to think that Iona's going to have some players, but the one thing I just think people are just kind of saying, oh, UMass, they'll be 3-0. I'm like, oh, wow, UMass isn't good. I don't know. Are they bad? What happened?
Let's see, A10 preseason basketball. Ken Palm's got him at 116.
Not
Um,
great.
no, but I mean, Robert Morris and Iona are in 280 or something like that. So
There's some bad teams in
yeah,
this. Got to clean up some wins too.
yeah.
What is I don't want to do the full football preview like we do here, but hey, when this thing is over tonight, there's going to be something we take away from it. There's going to be someone that we're buzzing about. I want to watch like calling plays. Like, that is a novel concept, I think, in basketball, because you think about Huggins and it was just typically one finger in the air and going, which meant run motion. DeVries says that the whole playbook is with him, and he's picked out, 10, 12, 15 plays they're going to run during a game, which is kind of fun when you think about it, because like a whole bunch of stuff you're throwing at an opponent. That's a lot of plays to throw at an opponent in the game, because basketball in a motion set or a half court set can be pretty simple. But if you're throwing 15 plays and that one play can get 2 different people a shot, depending on how they tilt it, that'll be fun to watch. But I really wonder how, like, for me, I think we'll be talking about their offensive execution, like, wow, that was great, or boy, they got somewhere to go. Or it might just be, wow, that was a thing to really see. Like, just to behold this offense and the coach calling plays. And I'm not sure he's gonna be Peyton Manning, calling like the cadence and all the jargon from the sideline. But man, 12 different plays, 15 different plays in a basketball game, that's like new theater for us.
Yeah, honestly, I hope it's not too much of that. I know that's what he said, but I'd love to see the motion stuff and see if these guys could work together, especially with somebody like Tucker DeVries, and Javon Small, 2 guys who know how to facilitate the basketball. Let them go out there and, you know, run the offense and do something there. And to answer your question, UMass picked 9th in the
Woo.
A10 preseason poll with 0 players on any of the 3 preseason all conference teams. Nope. What, third team guard? That's it.
I wonder if Frank Martin's a transfer portal guy. I could see him being very Huggins-ish and like, this is not what I signed up for. I'd be great on
Yeah.
TV. I got maroon suits. Yeah, tough one. You're in with your prediction. Published what, Friday, Saturday? Riveting, got my attention. 10 points, things to look at. I really recommend it. It's usually pretty sharp too from the beginning to the end. It kind of holds up across time. You had a large number of wins, Chris. And this is kind of a fascinating thing too. Like, 13th in the Big 12, and pundits here and afar are like, well, actually, that's probably not even close to accurate. And people are picking out good reasons to support and like and believe in this team. Um, that was, our guys Trotter and Finkelstein on 24/7. You and Andrew on the site have had it. There have been other people who've been like, "There's no way this team is." I mean, maybe they are the 13th place team, but they're going to give teams hell. But you've seen a lot of people saying, "Hey, 8, 9, 10 Big 12 wins, 17, 18, 19 regular season wins here." I believe you were in the 19 and 10 camp, right? So did we
Was
lose
that
you?
my best case scenario? Might have been
I
my
think
best
so.
case
Yeah, but like
scenario.
you,
Yeah,
you
the
were,
upside.
but you did kind of believe that that was attainable too.
Yeah.
What did you? I don't know. Like, where do you think this goes ultimately? Here we are at the start. A long time until game 31 and a trip to Kansas City, but seems like you believe in the possibilities here.
Yeah. And part of that, a lot of that has to do with Tucker DeVries, because I got to thinking, how often has it been, or when was the last time it's been where West Virginia was going into a lot of games where you could very clearly state West Virginia University has the best basketball player on the floor. And I don't think you could have said that like really at all last year, except for maybe a couple of the early season games. And I'm not sure that was the case very often, even in the couple years before that. With DeVries, I think there's a chance that West Virginia could have the best basketball player of the 10 players on the court a lot of the time.
Mhm.
I am a bit hesitant. I mean, I really it's not hesitant, but it's the only kind of hiccup I have. And I'll see if I can pull up the stats real quick. I had it down, and boy, it sent some people for a little bit of a tizzy here. Yeah, there it is. Um, DeVries last year, 28 games against teams that were not NCAA tournament teams. Out of the 34 games Drake played, 28 were non-NCAA tournament teams. 22.3 points and shot 46% from the floor.
Mm.
In the 6 games against NCAA tournament teams, and these are not, it's not Big 12 teams. This is
Like
like
3 against
Akron,
Indiana State, right?
Grambling, like UAB, 18 points on 37% shooting in those 6 games. So that's the only thing that's kind of holding me back. I'm trying to find out where my expectations are and belief is in Tucker DeVries. Because part of me says, it's like there's a scenario where he's the best player on the court for a third or half of West Virginia's games this year, better than anybody on the other team. And when you have the best basketball player on the court, good things happen. I just want to see him do it against Big 12 level competition. For instead of 28 and 6, it's going to be flip flop. There's going to be like 25 games where West Virginia's playing NCAA tournament caliber teams.
Yeah, I think your point on Harris and Hansberry is pretty good too, that you mentioned earlier, because yeah, everything you mentioned about DeVries there, valid. And Small has elevated from ECU to Oklahoma State and performed pretty well last year. Perfect? No. That was a bad situation for a lot of players last year, but he's accustomed to the Big 12 competition. He's made the leap before. So this isn't entirely new. Harris didn't play last year. I think people forget that. And Hansberry did play, but just, sparingly. Are both those guys going to hit in year one at a new school where, the competition's very good? And they were again, just very different seasons last year, but not great preparation, I would think, for what's automatically assumed here. Maybe not automatically, but what is hoped for here. They really have to do a lot of the heavy lifting. Not go out and be heroic, but they're going to have to supply the difference. If they're solid, they're good, and they produce. That high number is certainly attainable there too. Um, Flip it over to basketball, from basketball to football, Chris. Get Neil Brown, some number of players that we don't yet know, and then 2 coaches here. Chad Scott, new defensive coordinator, Jeff Coons. Everybody's been out. They had their Halloween parties. They went trick or treating. Now they are back to work here. Coaches, players. Big question. Quarterback 1. I do not believe we're going to have an answer before kickoff Saturday. And that's because they'll have one and they're probably not going to tell us. And it might go down to the wire. Maybe Garrett Green doesn't travel again. Who knows? But there's nothing we're going to get out of it today, because they did a pretty limited walkthrough yesterday. If Green was back, that would probably come out of Brown's mouth first. Don't believe that was the case. So they practice Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They make calls after that as to who travels as part of the 70 players to Cincinnati. I just don't think we're going to get an answer today. What do you think happens?
No, I'm with you. Unless the only way I see there being an answer today is if it is very clearly a, hey, Garrett Green, it was a, second, third concussion, he's done. That's the only way I see. I mean, and so I don't think nobody's hoping for that. Nobody wants to get an answer today because I think that's the only way that Neil Brown is giving an answer on the quarterback situation today.
That was a trick question, and you got it right. Treat from Chris. Good. Yeah. The only way we'll get something, I think, is if Green is definitively the starter, which there's no way, and or if he's out, which is a possibility. Like this is a concussion. By all accounts. I mean, people are using the word protocol and we saw what happened in the game. Yeah. And then, there's been some history here too that we reported on before. So the whole protocol right now is pretty much making the decision as this goes. And Brown said he can't do anything until his quarterback is healthy yet. Don't believe we're there yet. Is this a good thing or a bad thing for Brown, Chris? Because you could certainly, as a skeptic, as a fan, as somebody who wants a coaching change, as somebody who wants to see this team finish strong, whatever, you could be really invested in this because you might believe Green is the dynamic playmaker that gives you the best chance. And if that is the guy that vindicates Brown, because Brown made that call 2 years ago, man, this was the right move and everything is good. And he gives you the best chance because he can be explosive and he's won these games. He's beaten these teams. He's taken the team across the finish line late in the season before. Um, you might also think that Markio looked better, has a higher ceiling, maybe even this season, never mind multiple years from now. That's not Green's fault, but Markio has more time left on campus. Um, Maybe he's the better pick because he's healthy. He looked good. He can do what the coaches want more consistently than we've seen from Green. I think that's probably a fair assessment. The other part of that is like maybe you don't want Brown around, and maybe you're tired of like smoke and mirrors, and if all of a sudden the quarterback change elevates quarterback play for this season because the quarterback play by and large has not been great. Um, all of a sudden you kind of have fool's gold again, and perhaps you watch your program run it back one more time when you don't think that's necessarily the best indication of what the season has been like or where this thing is going here. I guess my point is again, just it's not an A and it's not an F. It's right in the middle. Like this is almost like you can't win for losing right now.
Yeah, I think the Markio thing is interesting, especially with the hot seat and Neil Brown's future at West Virginia. I think I've said it before that if I were Neil Brown and I were making a choice about quarterback, I wonder how much that extra year of eligibility would factor into my decision because there is a world where, say, if West Virginia finishes out the season 3-1 or 4-0 with Garrett Green, it's different than if they go 3-1 or 4-0 with Nico Markio. Because if you go 3-1 and 4-0 with Nico Markio, you say, look, just finished the year now 4-1 with Nico as our quarterback, and he's coming back next year. Things are great. Ta-da. Yeah, exactly. So, but to your point, I think you said smoke and mirrors. Is that smoke and mirrors? That one stretch of quarterback play against some mediocre opponents, is that going to throw everybody off the scent of what might be bigger issues? So if I'm making the decision, I might be leaning more towards Markio. If I'm Neil Brown, if I'm making the head coach decision, I might be leaning more towards Markio in a sort of self-preservation move right there.
I guess the great thing for Brown here, to be fair to him and his situation, like it's not all thunder and lightning above him. I get that. He he logically has to win out. No, he has to win from here on out, right? He just has to win games. And what gives him the best chance in 2024 is what gives him the best chance to coach again in 2025. So he might be making a decision for the short term that might ultimately benefit in the long term. So I don't think you have to worry about him weighing the scales of justice unequally here by him just saying, you know what, let's sack this season and let's show everybody we're going to be really good next year by bringing this quarterback back for start 2, start 3, all the way to the end of the season. Um, you could really say that the answer to each question is the same. That whatever it does helps him win the most games this year. That helps him keep his job. And again, like just coaches are politicians. Your job is to stay in office, and he's got to win games to win votes to make sure that he's elected again for 2025. That's a priority. It doesn't matter. So, however he wins games this year, that whole helps him keep his job there. What do you make, Chris, of UCF starting a redshirt freshman, their fourth quarterback in 5 games, Dylan Reisig, and watching him just absolutely flambe Arizona's defense?
Arizona's defense sucks.
Does it?
What was I say? Yeah, it might. Um, I don't know. I think that is the perfect team, I guess, to break in a new quarterback. I mean, West Virginia did it against, not because they planned to, but UCF planned that out. And so that just might be a defense that quarter offensive coordinators or head coaches are saying, hey, that's the team we want to ease our new quarterback into the world of college football because that defense is terrible.
All part of a plan. UCF is going to be a hornet's nest. Like he's going down. Like Malzahn is not giving up on this season. Like he's fired defensive coordinators. He's changing things on offense. He's not going to fire the offensive coordinator. But like 4 quarterbacks in 5 games. Like how many teams start? How many teams have 4 quarterbacks that can play, Chris?
I was just about to ask you. I was like, would we, as purveyors of information and coverage of West Virginia University, like, I'd be thrilled with that kind of, you know, news cycle, if you will.
That's the equivalent of Scott Keen beating
Yeah.
Baylor. Like something like that happening. Like, I mean, never mind Burton, right? Or never mind Green or Markio. You get past Burton, you go to your fourth quarterback. I mean, that's unbelievable what happened there. And again, just absolutely torched them. It was, I think, 35-0. And it ends up like 52-10 or something like that. And he looked really good too. Now, how much that changed when you see him on tape, we'll see. Do you do believe there is a if Green is healthy, if Markio is healthy, is there a wrong answer here?
No,
Okay.
I don't think so. Do
So,
you? You're
well,
you're
that would
asking the
indicate,
question, do you?
I mean, that would indicate that Green is the pick then, right?
Okay.
I
Yeah.
would think. Like if there's no wrong answer, then like you probably go with the more proven person. If there's a wrong answer, then like I don't know, like the wrong answer would be like just get the guy his starting job back. That would seem like the wrong one here. But
No,
I
the
just
wrong
wonder,
answer is running both of them out, yeah, doing a quarterback rotation. That's the only wrong answer, I think. And he's done it before, Neil Brown. He can't do it again.
do you think that my very cynical theory about they're going to use this as some sort of a competitive advantage and just make it a game time decision? Do you think that is a possibility?
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Yeah, and then listen, the Green thing is unfortunate. Like he'd much rather play. I think that guy's really popular too. I don't think that there's a locker room revolt. I'd be very surprised if there are strong feelings one way or the other. Like if you've seen Green play, he's picked them up at times before and really he gotten them wins and played really well in big spots. But Markio's also pretty popular too. I think anybody in offense would be like, oh, that's who's starting. Cool, let's go. It doesn't change a whole lot of stuff there too. Left hand or right hand, I get that, but like I think they like both their quarterbacks there too. If they said, "Hey, Scott Keen's going to start Saturday," whoa, what happened there? Right, that might be a locker room revolt. No offense to the Keens, appreciate your patronage here. The other big change, Chris, just anything you got your eyes on, whether it's today with Jeff Coons or just in general with Jeff Coons. I'm not sure they're going to come out and run like a 5-2. Probably does. I mean, I would think minuscule differences at least to start. It may evolve in the next 4 weeks, but just anything he'll say as to revealing changes or hinting at changes, anything you'll see Saturday about changes.
Nah, I don't think he'll say anything, but I was wondering that, hey, when you got a new coach that's taking over the play calling on offense or even, the play calling on defense as the coordinator, do they lean more towards their position? Like if you're Chad Scott, do you lean more on your running backs because you know your running backs, you love your running backs? Might do that because that might be the strong suit of this team. I don't know if Jeff Coons can do that with linebackers. I just don't think that's as strong of a unit. And that's nothing against him or those guys. I think it's just not a lot of depth there for them to be trying to, like you said, run. Well, you said 5-2, 2-5, or getting a bunch of linebackers out there. So no, I don't think he'll. You don't like the 2-5 idea? No.
Interesting.
Okay,
Big PT for Caden Visor right now.
there you go.
Yeah. Deep middle, Caden Visor. Just have him cover Kobe Hudson in a couple weeks. That'd be awesome.
Don't bring up Tampa 2. You're gonna get in trouble.
let's not do that. Yeah. My final question, Chris, because I cannot wait for this. I cannot wait for this. How impossible is the remaining schedule now based on the events of the weekend? It's just so hard. And you
I mean,
saw
what was that?
you saw what
Houston
UCF
beating
did.
Kansas State? That's
You saw what
ridiculous.
UCF did to Arizona. You saw what Texas Tech did to Iowa State. Shoot, this is tough. It's coming. Like, I mean, people clowned like the West Virginia over the weekend because all the teams that had beaten them lost. That's fine. Doesn't matter. You already played them. The teams that you just played had good weekends, and that makes these Final Four games look a lot harder than they did 7 days ago. And that's I know that's coming. I know it's coming. Oh man, the schedule's tough. Man, you see what
Yeah,
Baylor did? Baylor's on a roll.
I mean, I think it's none of these games are gimmies, not even close. And
No.
we've never said they were gimmies. I think we said at best they were 50-50 games, all four of them. Still kind of feel that way. And that's, I mean, again, I don't think West Virginia is a terrible team. So being 50-50 against other decent to good teams is what they should be. But are you telling me you've already changed your rankings over the toughest of the remaining four games? We just did this video last week, Mike. You changed your mind already?
I didn't know about Reisig. Thought he was like the scout team quarterback. He got the scout team ready. I wasn't sure he was going to start and throw for 700 yards against that really good Arizona defense. Who knew? No, I don't think it changes things too much. They're all pretty close. Baylor looks feisty though. Like their offense has been pretty good for 3 games in a row. Like pretty efficient yardage and just like they get in fights and they don't make mistakes, whatever, too. So that one might be more tricky than I thought. And I wasn't sure. I just wasn't sure about Bayron Morton either. But if he's going to go out there and play with one arm and kind of do what he did, Iowa State helped him out a bunch in that game. I get that, but those are gonna be tough games for sure.
A side note, the results from this weekend, it increased West Virginia's chances of making the Big 12 championship.
Chris, you have no voice and you whispered. There's no way anybody heard that.
That increased
Ah,
West Virginia's Big 12 championship game odds. You know
yeah,
how we talk about like craziness has to happen. Well, that was crazy enough to increase West Virginia's
yeah.
odds.
People did not like that 90 seconds that it was probably like 3 minutes that we spent talking about it, but like it's on the table and these teams play each other. Some of the teams play each other. Like Kansas State, Iowa State is now going to be a really big game if West Virginia is there with again like an and two record. That they're like 6-2 going to their last game, 7-2 because they're done. Armageddon may do a whole lot. And again, BYU, but the trouble is like BYU and Oklahoma don't play anybody. Or sorry, BYU and Colorado don't play each other or anybody really the rest of the way too. So they kind of control their destiny and see where it goes. And again, Iowa State only has one loss too. So and their schedules, I think Utah is on there. But yeah, it's not difficult the rest of the way. Anything else coming up here, Chris? We have basketball game tonight. The women start tomorrow. Football game on Saturday. It's a pretty busy time. I think West Virginia, Marshall, and soccer on Tuesday too. A busy week. We're not going to cover all that, but boy, it's a lot of eyes on the fields and courts this week.
Yeah, a lot coming up, and not this week. Let me make sure next week or 2 weeks from now, middle of the month here in November. Early signing period for basketball. West Virginia will have a couple of guys signed up. Um, Obviously different coaching staffs and different recruiting styles, but don't be surprised if like a player or two last minute shows up. That was Huggins for MO of having a couple of recruits kind of just out of nowhere, just a week or two before signing day. All of a sudden they're visiting, they're getting ready to commit, they're going to sign. Don't be surprised if that happens with DeVries either.
The number's really interesting. Like he kind of tiptoed around that question, and so of his assistants too. But like, I mean, they have a lot of seniors, but they're not all going to be freshmen they replace them with. I don't think you wait. Like, is it half and half? That's another thing I want to see. Like, I'm not sure as an answer right now. It's probably the quality of player they can get, but it also might be wise to hold spots for freshmen until later. Because like, wow, they're good. Wow, look at this guy in the Big 12. I had no idea. Like you might win some people over in time and you can ink them later on too. How many are left, who knows? But yeah, just another piece of intrigue about this basketball program that gets it going tonight. 7 o'clock, Robert Morris. Coverage on the site today, tomorrow. See what happens. Until then, I'm Mike Casazza.
And I'm Chris Anderson.
We will talk to you then.